Hello again, Struck. Today I'm bringing you another Outriders video, and this one would be the Trickster skill tree plus 10 Theorycrafts video, where I'm gonna look at the three branches of the Trickster skill tree: Assassin, Harbinger and Reaver, in that order. And then I would be showing you 10 Theorycrafts: 3 Assassin Theorycrafts, 3 Harbinger Theorycrafts, 3 Reaver, and 1 bonus at the end, which is kind of more of a hybrid between Assassin and Reaver. So let's quickly look at the Assassin nodes. It's the one where you have close range weapon damage and regular weapon damage. More close range weapon damage. You've got weapon damage when attacking from behind, close range weapon damage, weapon damage regular, and here it's regular weapon damage if you don't want that one or if you want to stack them. More when attacking from behind, and then there's assault rifle and shotgun damage, and then there's the shotgun master, which gives you shotgun damage and increased drop chance when using shotguns. And then there's this one: for each enemy in close range your weapon damage increases. Then you have things like extra close range weapon damage here, and you have movement skill cooldown, you have deception skill cooldown and more movement skill cooldown, as well as damage to elites, as well as weapon leech. Here you have 50% weapon damage after using a damage skill, 50% weapon damage after using a deception skill, 50% weapon damage after using movement skill, weapon damage after using a movement skill. And this is armor piercing, armor piercing, armor piercing, and this is reload time. There was this magazine size here, pretty nice. So magazine size, reload time, pretty decent on shotguns. Then there's this crit damage here, pretty decent, pretty nice to have. And then moving on, here in the middle between those two we have activating a movement skill increases your armor piercing, which you can stack with this and this to have 45 plus 15. And then here again additional 10% health for each enemy that died at close range. Is that healing by 10%? Is that a buff? If yes, for how long? It seems the way they worded it, it's that you get healed for 10% when you kill nearby enemies. Moving on to Harbinger. This is kind of a more defensive, tanky kind of skill tree. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 HP nodes for a total of 40% HP. We have damage reduction from elites, we have resistance once and then resistance twice, so for a total of 30% resistance. Then we've got things like decrease shield degradation by 30%, then another 30%, and then another 30% for a total of 90%. Then you have things like weakness afflicted on enemies lasts 30% longer. Then you've got things like this one: when your damage skill ends, increase your damage mitigation by 10%, which stacks pretty nicely with this one. Increase your damage mitigation while your shield is active by an additional 6%. Then you have armor once and armor twice for a total of 40% if you take it. Then you've got deception skill cooldown here. Then what are we missing? So this one, for each enemy in close range your armor is increased by 15%. Then you've got something like this one: your class melee skill inflicts weakness to all enemies hit, then shield gain 10%. And there was shield gain 10% here, and then this one gives you, for every activation of deception skills grants you 20% shield. And then every ammo pickup heals you for 5% of your maximum HP. And I think that pretty much are the things. So this one is pretty interesting. When surrounded by enemies, reloading your weapon deals X damage and interrupts enemies' abilities. This X damage scales with anomaly power, so it would be very, very nice to use it with some Reaver skills, with Reaver setups. This one gain additional 10% health for each enemy that died at close range, which can stack with this one. So this is like for more of a healing kind of if you stack those. And I'm wondering if this one and this one can stack up with with that one, where you don't get healed, but your shields get you get extra shields. Would that increase the shield gain? I think it wouldn't, but it would be nice if it did. So your melee skill inflicts weakness to all enemies, making them do less damage. Now let's move on to the Reaver. Normally power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 6% for a total of 42. Then you've got resistance piercing here, that is up to 30%. And then this thing can give you resistance piercing after using a movement skill for another 15%. Then there's this one at the end of any damage skill, increase your armor piercing and resistance piercing by 25%. Then moving on to the offensive stats, 50% anomaly power activating your deception skill for 10 seconds. Activating your movement skill, 50% anomaly power for 10 seconds. Another 50% anomaly power when your damage skill ends for another 10 seconds. So that's a total of 150% anomaly power combined with the 42 from those points here. And then there's this thing, for each enemy in close range your anomaly power increases by 10%. And then there's this thing, activating your melee skill increases your anomaly power by another 30% for 5 seconds. Combine that with the armor piercing, combine that with some of the other things. Then there's this one, increasing your assault weapon damage by 7% for each unlocked concentration node, which are those 7 nodes. So that's up to 7 times 749 weapon assault rifle weapon damage. Also gives you extra chance to drop assault rifles. Then there's weakness inflicted on enemies lasts 30% longer. Which you can stack with this one. Then there's cooldown reduction to damage skills, and then cooldown reduction to damage skills. There's skill leech here, and then this one, firepower increased by 15% of your anomaly power, which goes very well with the Assault Master. And yeah, this skill tree is, so far it looks to be the most DPS-y. It looks to be my kind of skill tree, with anomaly power and increasing firepower based on anomaly power. And then this one, although I do like this one with the idea of a shotgun build. And yeah, later you're gonna see all those 10 setups, and there's another skill leech I forgot to mention. And that pretty much sums up, and another skill leech, so the 3 skill leeches. So that pretty much sums up this tree. A lot of good stuff here to experiment with. This one would be amazing on a build with this thing here. This one is amazing. And let's move on to the setups now. Starting with the assassin skill tree or branch, we would first look at the shotgun build called the shotgun assassin, or setup not build. And I'm taking the weapon damage, the reload time, I'm taking some weapon damage and drop rates for shotguns, weapon damage upon using deception skill, upon using damage skill, and upon using a movement skill. That's why we're using all 3 types of skills. Extra weapon damage against elites, extra cooldown for movement, for deception, and more for movement. And here we're taking for each enemy in close range weapon damage increase, taking the magazine size. So we're not taking the armor piercing, because I think the cooldowns would be more useful, so we can activate those bonuses more often. We're not taking the leech, and definitely not taking the assault rifle stuff, but we have a lot of damages on the way. We've got crit damage and other things like that, weapon damage close range. So I think it's pretty decent and solid setup, so use one of each skill for this one. Next is the Assault Executioner, which is an assault rifle version of the Assassin, and I'm still using the code calculation, so you would still want to play it a little bit closer to benefit from that extra weapon damage to close range targets. But we're not taking the Shotgun Master. Unfortunately, I didn't go Assault Master, but I do have a build where we're using Assault Master with some of those skill at the very end of the video, the 10th build. After showing you 3 of each, that would be the cherry of the cake. So we're taking this and this for damage, deception, movement skill. We're taking armor piercing instead of reload time this time around, and we still have the big magazine size, and we still have both the crit damage and this one here, and another armor piercing here. So it's not bad in terms of stats. You can see it's pretty solid, and you need a deception skill, damage and a movement skill. In fact, all setups need a deception, damage and a movement skill that I've made, because they're all using some sort of skills that require either of those to trigger. Which is pretty nice how it ended up turning in the end. Next is the Armor Piercer. This one is an assassin setup that's neither assault nor shotgun. In fact, it's not even using code calculation, but it's focused on stacking armor piercing. So we have armor piercing here, here and here, which gives us 45% armor piercing, and there's extra armor piercing by activating a movement skill, and we're still taking the reload time and the extra magazine size. And if you want extra weapon damage to elites, you could probably remove the magazine size, put it here. It's flexible. If you want shotgun damage, you can do it there. There are things that you can do if you want extra cooldown. Again, maybe remove the magazine size, or maybe remove the reload time, or maybe remove one of the armor piercing. But this is me attempting to make as many armor piercing nodes as possible. So we've got 45 armor piercing and another 15 after using a movement skill, which is 60% armor piercing stack, excluding any other things from gear or from your teammates' buffs. So I think it's pretty solid, and I think many people might enjoy this if armor piercing ends up being a good stat worth stacking. Moving on to the Harbinger setups, and the first Harbinger setup is the shielded Harbinger, stacking as much shield degradation minus as we can, as much damage mitigation, as much shield gain as possible, and on top of that taking some offensive bonuses. So it's more of a, it works both for a little bit of weapon damage, a little bit of anomaly power bonuses. So you can see we have 11 damage mitigation while shield is active. We have minus 20% damage taken from elites, we have 45% HP from those certain nodes, shield gain plus 20%, shield degradation minus 90% from certain nodes. So you can see I'm not taking armor here, I'm focusing on the shield stuff. Melee applies weakness to make the enemies take less damage. This gives us weapon damage, this gives us anomaly power. And it's kind of, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good defensive setup. Whether the damage will be enough remains to be seen, but overall it seems to be pretty nice, and this one can also stack up with the other damage mitigation. So I think it's an okay setup worth experimenting with. Next we have the Shooting Harbinger, which is kind of more of a weapon damage shooting centric Harbinger. We're not taking all the shield degradation, so 2 of those nodes we've removed, and we didn't take this one with this one. So here we decided to move on for extra weapon damage in close range, deception skill granting us weapon damage, a little bit of cooldown for deception, weapon damage from behind, and weapon damage when a damage skill ends. And I think it's an okay setup. We still have some damage mitigation here and here. We still have a solid amount of shield gain and extra shield recharge. We still have damage taken from elite, so it's still gonna be more of a defensive setup, but it's kind of going a little bit more offensive than the previous one. Here are the stats, as you can see, again using all types of skills. Next is the Anomaly Harbinger, which is the opposite of the previous one. The previous one was going here, this one is going down for some more anomaly power based stuff. So we actually are taking this because we need it to get down to here. Deception skills grant us anomaly power, and then activating a movement skill increases the anomaly power. There's some weakness duration, which if you don't want the weakness duration, you can take resistance piercing. So this is optional, take one or the other, whatever you want. So we again are not taking that, and we're still taking this and this, and taking this shield gain. I didn't get this shield gain because I just wanted to grab those 2 nodes, and I don't think there's anything I can sacrifice to get it. I wouldn't sacrifice this for sure. But yeah, this is kind of a version where you might want to use the melee skill to apply weakness, and then this weakness duration synergizes as well, but you might want to take the resistance here if you don't want that. But it's definitely an interesting setup. Here are the stats, the cooldowns. Here it's not showing the right cooldowns because they haven't added the correct cooldowns for those skills because we don't know them. Moving on to the Reaver tree, we've got the Anomaly Reaver, which is me attempting to stack as much anomaly related boosts as possible. We're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 concentration nodes. Then Altered Executioner. For each enemy in close range, anomaly power is increased. Then we're taking this, Deception increases anomaly power, activating Deception skill, activating a movement skill increases anomaly power, when your damage skill ends increase anomaly power, then this thing here, activating a melee skill increases anomaly power, so you would want to use that. I've taken the resistance piercing 2 times. Here I decide to take increased firepower by X% of your anomaly power, but you might want to take this one. You will not be healed for each enemy that dies in close range. Instead, your shield gain will increase by 20%. I think this might be better because after all we are constantly shooting, we're not only spamming anomaly power, so might as well increase the firepower one way or another. And this one is interesting. It's not necessary to take it, you could remove it and take something else. For example, you can take this or you can take this. But this one is interesting and I wonder how strong this would be. It says it scales with anomaly power, and I think what other build than the anomaly power stacking build to add this against the odds. Here are the stats: anomaly power 42%, excluding the 50, 50, 30, so that's another 130 on top of it, and then this another 50, so 180% on top of it, excluding this. So you can get 180% plus 42 to 122%, including extra anomaly power based on how many enemies are nearby. So this one would be melting stuff, but it would be super squishy. So yeah, anomaly power melter, maybe using things like temporal blades or twisted rounds if twisted rounds gets increased by anomaly power. But yeah, temporal blade with double slice, pretty nice. And I think it's gonna be super strong. Cyclone Slice might be interesting to try on such a build, by the way, as well, with all that anomaly power. It would be amazing if Cyclone Slice counted as a melee skill, so it could apply weakness. It would be so nice, but I know it doesn't. But it would be nice if it did. And yeah, that's a build I really can't wait to try myself as well. Next is the Assault Reaver, another build I can't wait to try, and this one is using Assault Master, which gives you 7% damage for each unlocked node of concentration. We have 7 of those nodes, so that's 49% Assault Rifle damage. Combine that with this increased firepower by 15% of your anomaly power, then this 50, 50, 50, 150% total anomaly power increase. On top of that, 42% anomaly power increase. On top of that, extra anomaly power for each enemy in close range, and the double resistance piercing, which is pretty nice. And Continuum giving us that cooldown reduction twice. And it's just an amazing skill. And this one, additional resistance piercing. And this additional resistance piercing and armor piercing, it's just gonna be a very fun skill to use. Here are the stats, here are the cooldowns. I just can't wait to test this. This one would be perfect with twisted rounds. This one would be the build you wanna do assault rifle twisted rounds on. It's just gonna be amazing. And here is Reaver's shield, a bit of a more defensive take on the Reaver. It's still a DPS setup because it's a Reaver, but we're taking this here, 10% shield gain, and we're taking this shield gain, so that's 20% shield gain. You don't get healed, you get more shield gain when you kill enemies, and you get that extra shield gain, so that's like a 30% extra shield gain when enemies die. It still has a ton of anomaly power. It still has this 50-50-50 plus the 42. It still has the double armor piercing and this armor piercing and this armor piercing and this anomaly power. So it's just a little bit of a difference compared to the other ones, yet still should be a pretty solid, strong setup. And it doesn't have this cooldown, only has this cooldown to damage skills. So I'm not that excited to try this as the other two, but I still eventually would try it when the game is there and when I move on to my Trickster playthrough. And now here comes my hybrid version, the Hybrid Executioner. This is a setup with Assault Master and using Assassin, so it's kind of firepower combined with anomaly power, more of a balanced setup. You're using damage skills giving you weapon damage, deception skills giving you weapon damage, movement skills giving you weapon damage, then deception skills giving you anomaly power, movement skills giving you anomaly power. I didn't take the 2 points for this thing, for skill cooldown and damage skills giving you anomaly power, but if you want, you can sacrifice some assault rifle damage and do that, removing those points. Actually, you can't remove them because we need them. I forgot. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting setup because again you still get that 49% assault rifle damage, you get that up to 100% anomaly power damage with the 42% here, and with the extra 100 and up to 150% weapon damage. So it's gonna be shooting kind of build. Again, twisted rounds goes very well with this one. But you would wanna have one of each: deception, movement, and damage, as well as maybe using the melee skill to apply weakness, because why not? And we've included some armor piercing here. This is extra weapon damage from behind, extra close range weapon damage. So being behind an enemy by using Hunt the Prey and close range to them again with Hunt the Prey would be probably the best combo with twisted rounds and maybe slow trap or whatever. So yeah, that's the final setup. I hope you enjoyed those setups. I hope they help some of you out there when you're starting the game post-launch and you just want to follow some sort of a setup. Keep in mind, respecing is completely free. All the time you can respec. If you don't like something, you can constantly make changes. You can use those skeletons and rework them in a way that makes sense to you. But this is for the new players when the game launches and they just want some sort of a guideline to follow, to stick to until they reach level 30 and start farming the end game and reaching item level 50. So starting at level 30 you can maybe follow this and move and modify it as your items change and give you certain things, and then you no longer need those from the passives and maybe could afford to take a different passive for a different synergy with a different item. And that's it. Keep in mind, there by no means I'm not claiming those are meta. You know me, I don't care if a build is meta or not. I just want the build to be viable and to do the end game. Whether those would be able to, because they're not actually builds, they're just Theorycrafts, time will tell. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content update. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and goodbye.